The GDP is out. I want to get right now to Jerry Willis and get that breaking news. Jerry.
Yeah, Maria, that's right.
We're nearing the end of the month, which means a few things. My birthday has come and gone. Don't ask what age I am. I'm strictly in my 30s. Halloween is pending. And of course, we get to indulge in our favorite segment, watching Fox News hosts try and deal with yet another positive report for the Biden economy. Only this time, it involves the GDP. So before we flick over to our favorite news network, let's get some context really quick, because I think it's important. We have to gauge how prior administrations have rated their GDP rating. Any idea of who I'm talking about? Okay, Donald, what did you have to say on GDP?
Look at GDP at 3.2%, and I think they're going to go much higher. I mean, we're doing so well. But if I would have said 3.2% to those people back there, nobody would have believed it. And we're doing 3.2%. GDP for the quarter just released at 2.6%. So that's so much higher than anticipated. Remember, I was saying we're going to try and hit 3% sometime over the next period of 2 years. Well, 2.6 is getting closer, Gary, closer than we thought and a lot faster than we thought. But don't worry about the 3. We're going to be higher than 3 in the not too distant future, too. So we're setting economic records, and we're very proud of it, and that's, you know.
Okay, so that's a good reference point. We have a 2.6% GDP here, and a very enthusiastic cult leader calling it record-breaking. So if 2.6 is the threshold for record-breaking, where does 4.9 rank? Because that is what it's currently at under the Biden administration.
Now you don't.
I am thinking about it. I'm waiting for it to appear online here. I don't quite have it yet. There it is. 4.9%. That's against a consensus of 4.7%, Joe. With the the Dow Jones consensus, it was 4.3 for Reuters.
So that's so much higher than anticipated. This is far beyond what anybody thought we would be at. So we're at 3.3% GDP. But if I would have said 3.2% to those people back there, nobody would have believed it. And we're doing 3.2%.
So now let's see how Fox News have dealt with that.
Willis and get that breaking news. Jerry.
Yeah, Maria, that's right. We've got GDP at 4.9%. That is the first read on third quarter GDP. That is a surprise on the upside. We had been expecting consensus was 4.3%. You can see that's a big positive number. The Dow continues in negative territory ahead of the open here. Look at this. 4.9% is well over twice second quarter GDP, which was 2.1%. First quarter GDP, 2%. So you can see some really strong expansion here, mostly due to consumers, as you've been talking about right now. Retail sales, of course, have been strong, looking in the rearview mirror. There was one stronger forecast out there. The Atlanta Fed, their GDP now forecast was 5.4% for the quarter. This quarter, of course, July to September, GDP, the broadest read on economic growth. But wow, what a stunner. Actual coming in at 4.9%. Maria.
All right, Jerry, thanks very much. Markets are actually off of the lows. We're down at 109 on the Dow Industrials, down 104 on the NASDAQ. And I am talking with Keith Banks this morning. And Keith, you know, when you see a number like this, I know you said you're probably going to see the Fed take another pause next week. But does this, you think, have enough juice to actually move the Fed's thinking for the following meeting? That's the December meeting.
It could well. I mean, it depends on, I mean, this is backward looking, right?
Yeah.
So number one, they're going to say that's interesting. And it is a big number. As Jerry said, wow, 4.9%. But I think they'll look and say, what are the indicators as they look into the fourth quarter and beyond? But at some point, we need to see a cooling off of the economy. And we need to see, in our view, a slackening in the labor markets. It's hard to believe we can start the next cycle with unemployment below 4% and not have to worry that very quickly you're going to start to see wages reflective of that if activity begins to pick up sustainably. So this is all great to see, but at some point we do need to see additional cooling.
I would have expected them to do a lot more backflips like they have done in the past in regards to the job numbers.
Points. The problem is inflation is really not coming down all that much when you look at the components. I mean, the essentials, food, shelter, as well as energy. Yeah, okay, we had a sell-off in oil in the last week, but we're still talking about above $80 a barrel.
But this is about the GDP. gross domestic product, a measure of all goods and services produced in the economy. Now, GDP is adjusted for inflation and seasonal swings, but it's still well above the second quarter's 2.1% pace and faster than economists' expectations of 4.3%. US GDP expanded in the July through September period at its fastest pace in nearly 2 years, defying expectations in the aftermath of the spring banking crisis, further assumption that the US would slip into a recession by now, despite what appears to be an endless onslaught of doubt and fear-mongering in regards to the Biden administration. But as the administration have demonstrated at every turn, they continue to surpass economic expectations, from job numbers to unemployment and now the GDP.
These are all measures that are in place. These are the components of Bidenomics. So when someone tells you Americans don't like Bidenomics, it's false.
Jobs count has now beaten estimates 14 of the last 17 months.
That's the 29th straight month.
For those of you interested in those pesky facts, as Republicans undoubtedly try and spin this as no big deal because it also occurred while under Trump, in the 16 quarters that Trump was president, the only time he had a quarter greater than 4.9% GDP was the quarter after the 29.9% drop following COVID.
If the Democrats got in with their agenda in November of almost 2 years ago, instead of having 4.2 up, I believe, honestly, you'd have 4.2 down. You'd be negative. You'd be in negative numbers right now. You'd be in negative numbers.
Biden had 4 such quarters, including this last one, which has absolutely nothing to do with a COVID rebound.
President, I have great confidence in his leadership.
I don't want him to fail.
Been able to accomplish.
I think his policies are failing. Economy, inflation, borders, energy, national security. He's missing in action.
Let's talk about them in order. Let's
hang on.
Wait, I want to challenge the premise. You said the economy, 13.1 million jobs he's created. More.
These are post-COVID jobs. Okay. You know that.
Well,
I mean, that's an artificial number.
No. Then let me stipulate this as an opportunity to engage civilly on this.
Okay.
Fair point. Your president, Donald Trump, lost 2.6 million jobs during his 4 years. We've created 13.1 million. Fine, you can maintain a COVID frame. How about the fact that Joe Biden's created more jobs, 6 times more jobs than the previous 3 Republican presidents combined?
Are you going to tell me that...
And this COVID frame that Republicans cling to as an attempt to minimize the impact of Bidenomics is unsubstantiated and just desperate at this point.
But Joe Biden has a tremendous economic record to run on. There's a nifty chart floating around social media. Everyone should check it out. The U.S. has the highest post-pandemic growth in the G7 and the lowest inflation. So all the countries we compare ourselves to, 13.1 million jobs created. So yes, all the ones that were lost during COVID came back. And then we're gaining jobs at a faster clip than we did under the Trump presidency. 800K in manufacturing. There are articles all over talking about the manufacturing boom. We know unemployment is below 4%. We have 35,000 infrastructure projects. And before you say, oh, you're not going to see a bridge for 20 years or whatever, there are Republican senators humiliating themselves on Twitter now, talking about how excited they are that the broadband is coming to them. $3 billion going on. Tommy Tuberville, I think is how you pronounce it, says like, the broadband's coming, and then Joe Biden gets to, quote, retweet him and say, see you at the groundbreaking, which is what he did to Mitch McConnell. John Cornyn's been doing it, Nancy Mace, Elise Stefanik. These are people who voted against the things that their constituents are now going to get, and they want to take credit, and they don't deserve it for voting against it. 10.5 million new applicants for small business loans in the last 2 years. That's the fastest we've seen that happen over a 2-year period. So, one of my favorites, U.S. consumer confidence, talked about that. It's at a 17-month high. I'm not saying that the right track.
From where? I thought you were going to say 17-year. From where?
From COVID. You think COVID didn't? Well, but it does matter when you say that he doesn't have stuff to run on. It's just not true.
Hey, Midas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.